Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some kind of sense out of the nonsense that I either find or create. Hey, last night we talked about, are you aware? Are you aware of what's going on around you? Right. Tonight I want to talk to you about whether or not you are devoted. Are you devoted? Now, listen, we talk about that term in all kinds of things. Are you devoted to your spouse? Are you devoted to your kids? Are you devoted to your job? Are you devoted? I want to remind you that in Acts chapter 2, right, we all want to talk about the Acts 2 church, the Acts 2:42 church to be specifically. Great t-shirt, right? Acts 2:42, right? Are you part of an Acts 2:42 church? But I want you to look at the specific things that are in there for a moment. I want to get stuck on just the very first thing, right? It says this, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. I want to know who your apostle is. I want to know who your apostle is. You're like, I don't even believe in apostles. They're not around anymore. They were only the 12 and all that stuff. Great. Let's just leave that to the side for a second. We could argue that, right? But it would just be a one-way argument because I'm going to argue with myself about that whole thing, right? And I don't really want to argue with anybody about that at the moment. But what I want to know is the idea of apostle. What did apostles do? They lay the framework, the pathway, right, for what is to be done, right? So the prophet comes in and the prophet says, "Build me this, saith the Lord," right? Fantastic. The prophet says, "Build me this," and the apostle comes in and says, "Here's how we're going to do it." Poof, 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 right? And it just goes up, and it's just flawless. Well, it's not, right? But it just goes up. The apostles laid the framework, right, for things. So I want to ask you this question: who's your apostle? Once again, you're going to say to me, well, I don't believe in it. No, somebody's laying the framework for your life. So you tell me who your apostle is. Is it you? Right? Because God has said, thus saith the Lord, do this. Now, he may have said that to you through a prophet. He may have said that through the prophets in the Old Testament, New Testament. He might have said that through you. He might have spoken directly to you and said this. Who's laying the framework for what you believe? Somebody's laying the framework. Let me give you some suggestions, some examples. You figure this out, right? Is it you? Are you your own apostle? You buy your own press. You listen to your own press. You listen to yourself. This is what I think. And this is what I believe. And I'm going to do. Do you know there are a lot of people that are their own apostle? They are just laying their own trek, and it's going down, and they think they know where they're going. Right? They're following it, wholeheartedly following it. So maybe it's you. Maybe you're your own apostle. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's your workplace. You are so sold into the philosophy of blank. Right? You just are sold out. Whatever they want, however they want it, whenever they want. Right? They ring the bell and you just go. It doesn't matter what shape, what form, what anything you're in. You're going. They lay it. They tell you, hey, you know what? In 10 years, 10.3 years, you'll be a manager. And then 10.3 years after that, maybe a district manager. And then maybe in 30 years, you'll be a vice president, or you'll be this, or you'll be that, right? There's a framework. And companies used to do this all the time. They still do this to some degree. But one of the problems is people bebop all around. Right? They're buying into your framework and philosophy, and then they take that to somewhere else, and then they take it somewhere else, or they steal it from you, and they go build their own framework, right? But maybe your workplace has laid your framework. Maybe your church has. Maybe you're so into church. Man, if I just live this way, do this way, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be a great person. Maybe you've laid your own framework. Maybe the church has. Maybe your boss has. Ooh, maybe your spouse has. Maybe your spouse has a plan for your life and they just laid it. And man, you got to follow it. And if you don't follow it, man, they are there to make sure that you know you'd be a better person if you just did it the way that they wanted to. Or maybe they ditch you. Hey, you don't want to do it my way, you're gone. Hey, ooh, maybe the government. Maybe the government is your apostle. Man, whatever the government says. The government said that they love me, so they must. Oh, the government said that if I just pay them more taxes, this will happen. Oh, the government said if I do this, this will happen. Oh, the government said this. Maybe it's the news media. Maybe they're your apostle. Do they lay out the framework? Maybe it's your education. Maybe your teachers. Maybe they've laid out your framework. And you're just thinking, oh, man. And if you go to a classroom and you walk out sounding like your teacher, there's a problem. You know why there's a problem? Because it means they just cloned themselves and sent you out. Understand this. Jesus didn't take away free will, and he didn't clone himself and send people out. He sent a bunch of people out that were just individuals and messed up. Did he call them to be Christ-like? Absolutely. Did he clone them? God could have done that from the very beginning. He could have just said, hey, you're all going to talk like me. I'm going to have a whole bunch of little God-like human people just running around. No, we didn't do that. So here's my question tonight. Who's your apostle? Who are you devoted to? Because you're devoted to somebody. You're devoted to somebody's plan for your life. Is God your apostle? Is God the one that's setting forth the framework? Is God the one that's doing it? You tell me the truth. Man, if you're brave enough, put it in the comment section. Hey, I'm brave enough to tell you that it's my work. Man, they run everything. Right? Chew on that. We'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.